Hello, everyone, and welcome to Our Eyes on Indie. My name is Finn, and it is my absolute pleasure to bring you our review of Shogun Showdown, the first game developed by Robottino, published by Goblins Publishing and Gamera Games. Shogun Showdown is a turn-based roguelike with a really cool setup for combat, and it's set in this mystical feudal Japan land where the Shogun has cursed the land, and you've brought it upon yourself to take on him and his entire army and free the land for the curse. So, how are we going to get through this curse, and is this curse worth lifting for the land that Shogun Showdown is? Well, it's time to find out with our review. So to start things off, let's talk about the plot and the fact that you guys actually already know everything there is to know about the plot. As I said before, your goal in Shogun Showdown is to defeat the Shogun and remove the curse that the Shogun is putting upon the land. And that's it. That's all the story you get beyond some flavor text on the enemies as to who they are and kind of why they serve the Shogun. But other than that, there's no actual big lore, no big plot story overall. That's it. But you know what? In the face of a game, the gameplay is what matters most, even for someone like me who enjoys my story when it comes to games. But before we get into the gameplay, let's talk about the presentation. And my word, I love how Shogun Showdown looks. It is that fantastic pixel art style we see in so many indie games. Some people hate it. I'm one of the people that loves it so much. And man, from the characters, whether it's their more traditional feudal looking designs or some of the weirder ones you get into later. Like the first time I saw the grappler enemy at the spirit shrine level, I was like, man, what the heck are you? And what else am I going to see in this game? It was awesome. I love the designs. The grappler, like I said, he's so weird looking. He's got all these cords that go from the body into the head, and it's this orb with an eye that spins around. Whereas you got others where it's swordsmen with two swords and the traditional kind of Asian hat that we're used to seeing. Or it's these big, beefy guards that have Oni looking armor that just stomp around at you. It just looks great. And the backgrounds, oh man, if I could have these as a wallpaper, I would never want to take them off. They are fantastic. Man, every single background just looks so nice and serene. Each of them not getting in the way of what you're going at. Like, they're not a distraction. They remind me of like a poster you put on your wall. They're lovely. They look so nice, and you would miss them if they're gone, but they don't get in the way and make you go, man, that just, takes up the whole room. Now, the game can't be any good if the only thing I like from it are the backgrounds, so let's actually talk about the gameplay and what the runs look like. As I said before, Shogun Showdown is a turn-based roguelike, which means every time you hop in, you're going to be jumping into a run, and you know that you're most likely going to die. So you start off every run by picking one of the three available characters that are the Wanderer, the Ronin, and the Shadow, each of them with two different starting tiles as well as their own special ability. Now, when it comes to getting into a run, you're going to jump in to the first area, fight some waves of enemies, fight a boss, move on, go see a merchant, get some upgrades along the way, and continue to get more and more powerful as the run goes on. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the game is not randomly generated. While the enemies that spawn are, you are always going to be at the same area to start with and fight the same boss every single time at every single area. So no matter what you do, you are always going to the bamboo forest and then to the caves, and so on and so forth. And to be honest, I like the predictable nature of the run in Shogun Showdown. While in some games I think the randomness definitely attributes to what makes it great. Being able to plan ahead in a game like this that requires so much forethought, especially in combat, is nice. I know what kinds of enemies I'm going to be facing, what point of the run I'm going to run into new enemies, and so on and so forth. Now, let's actually dive into combat and how it works here. Because combat is super unique to me. I love it. It's so good. It takes place on a two-dimensional line of cells. All right? You and the enemies are going to share that line of cells together, okay? And you all move and fight on those cells. You can't occupy the spaces of enemies, and they cannot occupy your space. Now, you are going to have some character abilities that let you manipulate what space enemies are on, but we'll get into that in just a moment. So, every combat, you are all going to be taking your turn, enemies, and you all share, besides having certain abilities, the same things you do. You're able to move forward and backwards. You're able to turn around, much like Trek to Yomi, and you're able to prep an attack or use an attack, and then of course you're able to use your character's special ability, and finally you are able to wait. So it's pretty simple, and the combat in this game reminds me of Go. If you know the game Go, the ancient game that everyone talks about all the time, it's a game that's simple and anyone can learn it within 5 minutes. However, it takes a long time to master the game of Go. And the same is said with Shogun Showdown. In Shogun Showdown, I've told you everything you need to know about how combat works. The only finer points you need to know are, okay, what exactly does this tile do, and how does it work? But you can read that. There's a nice little info section in the game, so you can read what any attack does at any point in time. But the mastery comes from, how exactly am I going to plan out my turns, and how can I combo things together? See, and this is where the prepare move has so much weight here, and I think is the best mechanic of that. Because not only do I have to go, okay, I want to use this attack, but I have to prepare it beforehand. So if I want to attack someone, it has to be 2 turns from now, because before I can use the attack, I gotta prep it first. And what's even better about this mechanic is you can prep up to 3 attacks at the same time. And this is where the more nuance and the bigger strategy comes in, because I can say prep a dash attack into a double slicing sword attack here. Now, the reason that's important is, like I said before, you can turn around this game, and most attacks only attack in front of you. So spending a turn to turn yourself around is huge, because that's a turn you have to use just so you can actually hit someone. Now, a good way to combo this together is, one thing that I've done a few times is I'll take the arrow ability if I'm playing Wanderer, and I have the shadow dash, and then I put that into the sword attack on both sides. So I hit the first enemy with an arrow, I'm going to dash through them to get to the other side, and then be able to hit the guy that was on the other side that I wouldn't be able to hit before. And comboing those together is where the deeper strategy in Shogun Showdown. And man, does it feel good when you line it up perfectly and you go, yeah, I prepped all this in advance, I saw the field of battle ahead of me, and I went, yeah, they're going to move there, so I'm going to be here, and that means I could do this, so I'll prep this, and then bam, it all comes together, and you go, all right, now I'm ready. Yeah, I'm feeling good. And the other great thing, too, is enemies can hit each other as well, so if you're able to maneuver them around the field with, for example, the Wanderer's special ability, where she's able to swap positions with the enemy in front of her, you have them go ahead and prep their attack, you swap spots so the enemy behind is also attacking them, and they hit each other. Man, it just feels good. It's simple to pick up and hard to master because of all the little nuances and how much you actually have to prepare in advance. Now, other important things to note in combat are your tiles that I talked about before. Every character starts out with 2 tiles, and every tile has a cooldown period. That's how many turns it takes to use it again, and these can be upgraded. Every tile starts with a 3-level max upgrade here, some of which you can get later on in a run. Having 4 is the max I've seen for their starting value, and you can increase the amount of upgrades able to be put on a tile. But these upgrades range from lowering the cooldown, increasing the damage, but also increasing the cooldown, or adding other effects. One I got in my first run was poison, and poison, while increasing the cooldown by 2, made it so that the target would take 1 damage each turn for the next 3 turns, therefore dealing an extra 3 damage on top of whatever the tile already dealt. And these decisions feel very impactful, because then you have to go, okay, wait a minute, this ability I was using so before, if I upgrade it with more damage or an effect, suddenly I'm having to deal with longer cooldown. Now, that's all good and dandy, but when it comes to the shops too, you also have some other upgrades you have to consider. See, at the shops, they're going to be able to sell things to you, whether that's increased consumable slots, or they sell you a shrine upgrade, which, again, damage, cooldown reduction, all those things. But they also have certain skills unlocked, and those skills can range from just straight up beneficial to having some caveats to them. For example, one I ran into in a run was, at the start of combat, you get shield. And shield blocks, of course, the first damage you take, but it lowers your maximum HP by 2. And so that's another decision that made me think, is this worth it to me? How much am I getting hit? Or do I just want to be able to tank 1 hit, but not be able to take? Now, it's a great system here. It makes you think throughout a run, what do I want? What do I need? What can I do with what I've got? And that also brings me to the meta progression in Shogun Showdown. While not as grand to me as Inkbound's, but I'm a little bit biased there, I enjoy it much. Shogun Showdown system is still great. Every time you defeat a boss, you are going to obtain skulls, and skulls are your meta progression currency here. You're able to spend them on just a couple of things. You can spend them back at the little hub where you can unlock new tiles for a run. So I unlocked one that was a curse. It was a free action, so it didn't actually take any time to prep. But what it would do is it would curse the first enemy ahead of me, making it so the next hit they took, they would take double damage. And that made me go, oh, I could combo this with some of the heavy hitting things that maybe have a longer cooldown so it becomes more worthwhile. And that's great. And they're awesome. I love it. But the other progression that I thought was really interesting with these skulls is upgrading the merchants. When you upgrade the merchants, you give them more stock. It starts off with sometimes it's an extra stock slot, or maybe it's being able to have a blood bond where you can spend a HP point to get a random item or get some gold. And those felt meaningful because you're always going to run into the merchant. Merchants having more stuff is just lovely because that's one of the things that is more randomly generated in this game. Well, I already talked about you're able to plan a lot into the run because the areas stay the same. The merchants and what they have are more randomized. And because of that, being able to put things in your favor by going, okay, I know they're gonna have more stuff, so I have a higher chance of getting something I want, is awesome. Last thing to talk about here is the sound. The sound design is fine. You know, all the hits are pretty basic sounding as far as I'm concerned, but they're nothing bad at all. I enjoy them. They give some nice feedback to your heads. There's some nice feedback when you get hit. I like it. It's great. And the music is also fantastic here. It is subtle. It's just in the background. It's almost like lo-fi hip-hop beats to fight the Shogun to, right? Like, it's there, and it's just nice background music. It's not in your face, it's there, it lets you think. And that's exactly what music in a tactical, something that's there, but isn't in your face and distracting you from the hard decisions you have to make. Man, if you guys couldn't already tell what my verdict is on this game by how much I've been praising it, then you've clearly been doing something else instead of listening, because this is an easy 10 out of 10 for Shogun Showdown. This game, for being just released in early access, feels so well done already, especially in this day and age where AAA games are constantly coming out broken and indie games are coming out more polished than ever. Not to mention, this game is only $9.99, and with promises of future updates, I cannot wait to see where Shogun Showdown goes, from new characters that get added, or new bosses, new enemies, new tiles. Oh, the possibilities are endless here. I can't wait to see what kinds of tactical things I can do and how I can combo new things together as this game continues to be developed. But Shogun Showdown, ladies and gentlemen, an absolute must-buy from me if you are a tactical roguelite fan, is $9.99 on Steam. Again, is developed by Robottino and published by Goblins Publishing and Gamera Games. It is fantastic. If you want to check it out for yourself, the link is going to be in the description below. And if you're not much for reviews and you want to see some actual straight up gameplay with commentary, go and check out our second channel, Our Hands on Indie, where I give you some straight up gameplay with commentary there. And that's it for our review. If you liked the video, go ahead and give us a like. And if you are not subscribed and want to keep up to date with all things going on with indie, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But until next time, my name is Finn. You have a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll be here with our eyes on indie.